This morning, Texas Democrats downplay not having enough delegates to pass a platform last weekend. State Chairman Gilberto Hinojosa on the impact of it and a lot more. U.S. Senator John Cornyn behind a number of bipartisan bills right now. He's with us from Washington on those and whether he thinks law enforcement should be held accountable for their failures in Uvalde. Texas Agriculture Commissioner Sid Miller wants fellow conservatives to do something they have so far been hesitant to do.
And people are kind of shocked that a Republican would be promoting this. But look, this is about freedom. It's about less regulation. It's about less government.
And Greg Abbott and Beto O'Rourke have raised staggering amounts of money in their race for governor. But who's giving it all? We'll follow the money in just a moment.
Inside Texas Politics with Jason Whiteley starts now.
Good morning, I'm Jason Whiteley. Let's get the program started right now with some of the top political headlines across our state. A brand new report shows Texas is the 5th best state in the nation for business. But it also says Texas ranks as the 2nd worst state in the country to live in. CNBC did this ranking. It looked at crime rates, voting rights, protections against discrimination, and the number of people without health insurance, among other things. The worst state on the list, in case you're wondering, was Arizona. On Wednesday in Washington, the U.S. House Oversight Committee will hold hearings with manufacturers of AR-15 assault-style rifles. What's notable here is that executives from Ruger and a company called Daniel Defense are supposed to testify. Smith & Wesson is invited, and they're all going to take questions on how they sell and market those rifles. And Democrats are rushing to make marriage equality into law while they still control Congress. Democrats fear the conservative U.S. Supreme Court might overturn same-sex marriage, so the House passed a bill the other day to make it law. Only one Texas Republican supported it, Congressman Tony Gonzalez from West Texas. This bill's fate in the Senate, though, is uncertain. Let's begin now, though, with a word not often associated with Washington. The word is bipartisan. The state's senior senator working across the aisle on a number of bipartisan bills in D.C. One to address the record number of migrants crossing into Texas from Mexico, and another to incentivize more companies to make those precious semiconductor chips here in the U.S. again. Senator John Cornyn joined us from his office in Washington.
Senator Cornyn, welcome back to the program. Let's start with a bipartisan bill that you were leading about the semiconductors and trying to incentivize more companies to make those little chips, those important little chips here in the U.S. The Senate already has enough votes to pass this before the August recess. Do you expect it's going to get a vote this week? And secondly, is it going to pass?
Well, I do expect it to pass this week, and I do believe the House will promptly take it up after we do. This has been a 2-year-long project of mine, a bipartisan project, recognizing after COVID-19 the vulnerability of many of our supply chains. And as we began to look at it, 90% of all of the semiconductors that run technology from your cell phone to the F-35 Joint Strike Fighter come from overseas, which is an unacceptable risk. The reason for that is it's 30% cheaper to buy or to build a manufacturing fab in Asia than it is in the United States. But when you consider the consequences of natural disasters, pandemics, or maybe even a military conflict between China and Taiwan, the risk is just unacceptable. So that's the reason why this is so important.
Senator, we saw you on the Texas-Mexico border the other day as well, too, pushing another bipartisan bill, the Bipartisan Border Solutions Act, which you're leading there in the Senate, too. This would establish at least 4 new processing centers, I believe, to get migrants processed quicker. It would give federal agents more resources, speed up the migration procedures as well, too, and deter illegal immigration. I'm curious whether you think there is enough support to get this passed. And if so, why not just get this thing passed and put it on the president's desk?
Well, I'd love to do that. Frankly, I reached out to Senator Kyrsten Sinema, a Democrat from a border state of Arizona, Henry Cuellar, a Democrat from Laredo, and Tony Gonzalez, a Republican, for the largest contiguous border district in the country. And we put this together with the hope that maybe, just maybe, the Biden administration would be looking for some help when it comes to the current crisis that's going on at the border. Unfortunately, they show zero interest because I'm afraid that the Democratic base now, particularly the the progressive base, they don't believe in controlling the border. They believe in open borders. The problem is it's not just migrants. You also see drugs coming across the border, which have taken the lives of 100,000 plus Americans last year alone through drug overdoses. So unfortunately, it takes a partner to negotiate with, and we don't have a willing partner.
I want to ask about another bipartisan bill that's floating through the Senate right now, too. It would update the Electoral Count Act and ideally prevent another January 6th like we saw not too long ago. I'm curious whether you support this, where you are on this bill.
Well, the Electoral Count Act is the law that governs the procedure by which the Electoral College votes are counted by Congress. And this is not the first time that a member of Congress has objected. In 2004, Senator Barbara Boxer, a Democrat, objected. We saw that happen again on January the 6th. What I believe that people need to have confidence that our elections are actually working, that the votes are properly cast, that are properly counted. And if this will increase public confidence in that process, then I think it's worth considering. I haven't looked at the final bill yet, but there is a bipartisan bill that hopefully will eliminate some of the confusion, controversy, and frankly, loss of confidence in our elections that unfortunately we saw as a result of what happened on January the 6th.
I hear the bell ringing for a vote. One last quick question for you, too. Almost 200 federal agents responded to the Uvalde school massacre more than a month ago. Should law enforcement be held accountable for not following training, not engaging the shooter that left 19 students and 2 teachers dead? And if so, what do you think that accountability should look like, Senator?
I'm the last one to say that you ought to blame the police when they show up at a scene and try to do the best they can in the fog of war, so to speak. But there are procedures by which law enforcement can be held accountable, both within their departments and in other venues. And I would let those go forward as appropriate. But there's nothing about this shooting in Uvalde that was good. Perhaps if there is some good to come out of it, it will be that we will learn lessons from this. So prevent the likelihood that loss of life will occur in future incidents.
Senator, thank you for the time.
Thank you. Good to be with you.
Let's continue with that topic there in Uvalde. Today marks 2 months since the massacre of 4th graders at Robb Elementary School. Last Sunday, the most comprehensive report yet detailed the law enforcement failures that day. How there were more than 350 cops there, and collectively they waited more than an hour to confront a lone gunman. This morning, the question on a lot of minds is accountability. Let's begin right there with Ian Mitra. He is the senior managing editor of the Texas Tribune. Ian, it's good to see you. I want to ask you about the head of DPS specifically. He has blamed this on Pete Arredondo, who is the head of the Uvalde School District Police Department the entire time. Do you expect that Steve McGraw, the head of DPS, to lose his job or face any accountability over this?
Well, as you mentioned, this comprehensive report for the first time has really kind of shown some of the aspects of like state and federal law enforcement officers, how many there were there, and just the lack of coordination. You know, DPS has announced that they're doing their own internal investigation, but I think, judging by kind of the response to the report, there's a call for more accountability. And so, whether the job's on the line, I don't know, but there's definitely going to be more answers are required in terms of, the police response.
Yeah, indeed so, and we're looking forward to finding out what comes out of that. Greg Abbott, Beto O'Rourke both raised staggering amounts of money. The Texas Tribune looked into where it's all coming from. Who's donating this? I mean,
there is staggering amounts here from both Beto O'Rourke and Governor Greg Abbott. I mean, Beto O'Rourke has raised more than 40 million for the campaign, and Greg Abbott is around 37 million, and the governor has more cash on hand. But largely this is and there's no state limits on political contributions. These are big numbers coming from organizations and individuals, both within the state and without. Greg Abbott has more of his contributions coming from within the state. And Beto O'Rourke's, a lot of his money is coming from there's the bigger cities. More of that is concentrated in his donations, while Governor Abbott is doing much better in rural areas. But the fact is that these are prolific fundraisers, and that's just going to continue up until the election.
Yeah, indeed so. Always keep an eye on the money. Thanks a lot, Ian. Back to you in just a moment. Yeah. Coming up, Texas Agriculture Commissioner Sid Miller has a challenge for his fellow Republicans. And Texas Democrats left their state convention in Dallas with some unfinished business. Party Chairman Gilberto Hinojosa on the plan now to get it done. Welcome back to Inside Texas Politics. Medical marijuana is something that frightens a lot of Texas Republicans. We have a very limited law allowing it right now, but 37 other states, including many Republicans, go much further than that. The Texas Commissioner of Agriculture, Sid Miller, argues that it is time for Texas to catch up. We caught up with him on the side of the road in West Texas.
Commissioner, welcome back to the program. You want the legislature to expand medical marijuana in this state. How much do you think that would help Texas farmers right now?
Well, it's not so much that it help farmers, but it'll help people that are ill or sick or suffering. That's the reason for it. I mean, we have the hemp program, but right now we're picking winners and losers. We've had medical marijuana for a while, but it's very, very limited. If it'll help somebody, I think I've been quoted. If it'll help a toothache, I'm for it. Anything that will relieve pain or suffering for somebody. And we've seen this how it helps PTSD, cancer patients,
right,
etc. But we just need to open it up to everybody and quit picking winners and losers.
Have you ever used medical marijuana for anything?
I've never even smoked marijuana, but I've seen the benefits of it. I've toured the facilities and seen what it can do medically for people. I don't advocate recreational marijuana, but this, and people are kind of shocked that a Republican would be promoting this. But look, this is about freedom. It's about less regulation. It's about less government. It's about freedom between you and your doctor and getting government out of your life. I think it's a conservative issue, and I think the people of Texas agree with me overwhelmingly.
I want to ask you about the intense heat that we're seeing across the state of Texas, the drought that so many people in agriculture are experiencing right now. How will this state handle that this summer? How do you think this is going to rank to previous droughts we've had?
Well, this one's bad. The summer of '80, we had 69 days above 100, but they're well above 100. 2011, we had 71 days above 100. At my house, I recorded 118 degrees day before yesterday. Farmers and ranchers having to sell their livestock. The livestock auction barns are at capacity. They can't take any more animals. There is no hay. We got one cutting of hay, and it was about 50%. Our milk cows, the production is falling off. Our pecan crop, the trees are in stress, so they're dropping their fruit. There's not going to be much of a pecan crop. I'm in Lubbock right now. I'm driving through the high plains. Actually, I'm on my way to, some meetings up here, but afterwards I'm going to New Mexico to pick up some hay because I don't have any hay for my horses. But the cotton crop is non-existent. What was planted either never came up or it came up and withered and died. And on top of that, last time I looked, I think we have over 800 active fires across the state. The winds are up, and that complicates the fires. The only good thing about the wind is it's turning the wind turbines and keeping our grid from going down. So, there's the pluses and minuses on both sides.
Commissioner, we appreciate the time. Be safe on the road out there.
All right. Thank you.
Now to some unfinished business. Texas Democrats held their state convention in Dallas last weekend, but they left without doing one of the primary things that all political parties do. They did not pass a platform. Gilberto Hinojosa was reelected as a state chairman, and we spoke to him about this shortly after he left the convention. Mr. Chairman, welcome back to the program. Congratulations on getting reelected, first of all. But I want to ask you about Democrats leaving the state convention last weekend without having passed a platform. You appointed a special committee to do that. What physically will happen next?
We still have to decide exactly how this is going to work. We're going to have a meeting tonight with the staff and the officers of the Texas Democratic Party, and we'll decide exactly how to do this. I think it would be very difficult and cumbersome to try to have to convene all the delegates again by Zoom, and I'm not sure that would work. So I think that what we're going to do is run it through the executive committee and have the executive committee adopt the platform.
Mr. Chairman, let me ask you this. If you can't get diehard Democrats to stick around and vote for the platform there at the convention, how can you get people to the polls and inspire confidence in your party?
Well, look, I mean, people have been working till late at night for 2 days solid. They had flights to catch, right? They had to get out of the hotel. They had things to travel. Those that drove had to travel long distances. It's been debated extensively in the platform committee and reported it out. In the times that I have been the chair in the last 10 years, there have been very, very few, if any, changes made to the platform by the convention. They take a look at the platform. They 99% of the time are happy with what it is, as reported out by these two committees that have already met, and they adopt it almost unanimously. But there should be a majority of delegates when that happens, and it just couldn't happen then.
The Republican National Committee has invested directly in Texas, as you likely know, opening community centers in the Rio Grande Valley and North Texas and the city of Capel and other places like that. The RNC is visible here, and Democrats have complained to me that the Democratic National Committee just hasn't made the same investment. Why do you think it is that the DNC isn't taking Texas as seriously as the Republicans are?
They actually are. But we don't do these little show things that the Republican Party does. I mean, for example, I'll give you an example. They opened up an office in McAllen, 6 months ago, and there was a big fanfare. They had an event. They gave out tamales to people, and they said, "We're planting our flag in South Texas." If you go down to that office, probably right now it's probably closed. They have one person manning it, and they're essentially doing nothing. The Democratic National Committee, however, opened up an office in McAllen. It's already staffed by about 8 people. They're working together with the local Democratic Party to maximize the efforts that we're going to have in getting the vote out. They're working closely with the congressional candidates and the state party, the county party operation in Hidalgo County, as well as the county party operation in different counties within the districts that they're going to be working on. So they are investing. Democratic National Committee is providing funding to the state of Texas to do things like voter registration. The amount of money that they've invested with the Texas Democratic Party is unprecedented in Texas to help us prepare to put together a massive voter registration program in the state of Texas. They're providing funding for Asian American outreach in the state.
Is that for the November election, Mr. Chairman, or is that in the past?
That's now.
Mr. Chairman, we appreciate the time.
Thank you.
The Texas electric grid pushing through some record temperatures this week. But what would rolling outages mean to the November election? A question for the roundtable when we come back.
This is Inside Texas Politics with Jason Whiteley.
Time now for Reporters Roundtable to put the headlines in perspective. Aya Mitra is back with us from the Texas Tribune in Austin. Bud Kennedy is here each week from the Fort Worth Star-Telegram, and Bernadine Steptoe is a political producer at WFAA in Dallas. Aya, let's start with you. The Texas electric grid continues really to teeter there. The last week we saw that it was doing pretty well, plenty of reserve margin available, but still we're only halfway through the summer, not even halfway yet. How big of a political issue do you expect this to be in November?
Well, it's hard to say with how far we out from November, but obviously we're facing our hottest month in August coming up here soon. So, if as things kind of put pressure on the grid and there's, there are the need to do some rolling outages, then that's going to bring some real frustration. And people still have the specter of the winter storm in the back of their minds too.
And Bud, if worst case scenario happened, if we went into rolling outages here in this state, how would that affect Greg Abbott? How would that affect Beto O'Rourke's campaign?
Jason, we know at WFAA in Dallas has reported that the grid can't hold up for 2 solid months this way. The machinery is old. We're going to have some trouble. Question is, will it be too soon if we have brownouts in August or any sort of rolling blackout? Will people still remember that in November? I'm not sure they will.
And that's the question, Bernadine. Inflation, especially in gas prices, is easing. If there's no issue with the power grid, which we all hope there is not, what's going to be the issue come November, do you think?
Inflation. Voters and Texans are having a hard time filling up their vehicles. And if you don't have the grid, which people will remember if we have an outage, then they're going to look at their pocketbooks and they're suffering. Food is getting higher, gas is higher, and those are the things that they're going to be looking at in November.
And that's likely not good news for Democrats since they're the party in power right now. I want to ask you about some stories that you've done at the Texas Tribune that your staff down there has done. And that's the 4-day school week. And it seems like a lot of rural districts have done this out of necessity. Is there a political impact here? Do you expect others other districts to follow this?
Yeah, well, what we've seen and what we've reported is that a lot of rural school districts are turning to this basically because to address an aspect of teacher shortages. And this is a competitive factor now. And so a lot of districts are doing this. And so it's really just to kind of keep enough teachers in place. And so, the fallout is whether it kind of will it expand? It's hard to see that type of scale at bigger school districts doing this because of issues related to childcare and stuff. But, these are things that, districts are going to have to get creative in kind of to address like these teacher issues and budget issues as well.
Yeah, and I guess in some form or fashion, Bud, as far as electricity goes, it might save electricity if they're only there 4 days a week instead of 5.
Well, it saves electricity on air conditioning and it saves on gasoline if the school buses don't run 1 day a week. So there's a big upside for school districts to run 4 long days instead of 5 days. Politically, does it have an impact? I guess teachers will have 1 more day to go out and campaign.
That's a good point, Bernadine.
Yes, but that's not the issue that they're switching. The reason that they're switching to 4 days, they're switching because of teacher shortages. And keep in mind that it is becoming difficult in the state of Texas for teachers, and they even want to arm them. So I think that the legislatures, our elected officials must look at how their rules and their laws are affecting teachers, because it's a shortage that's causing the 4-day and not necessarily electricity.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, teacher shortage is a serious issue. It's a crisis that we're facing not only here in Texas, but across the country. Guys, thank you very much. We appreciate it. Thank you for watching as well. We're back again next Sunday to take you inside Texas politics. Can't wait to see you there.